Well, what should I do today? I think I need to study something. Yes. How about life cycle course? I think I'm interested with this topic. Hmm, but I sure I will be bored if I study alone. Hmm, how about Oh yes, how about I ask my group to study together? Yes, I think that's the best. And I should contact them right now.
Hai Hazwani.
Hai Pak Kira.
Hai. Hai Sharifah.
Hello you all.
Hai Kira.
Fakira,
Yes.
what topic we want to discuss today?
About topic for today, I suggest life cycle costing. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't really understand the topic yet.
Oh, it's okay. Is there anyone know about this topic?
I think I found an interesting slide that we can go through together.
The one you shared last week?
Yeah.
Wow, nice. Let's go through this slide together.
Let's go. Okay, I will
Let's
present the
go.
slide. Hi guys, welcome back to our videos channel. Today, we will continue our lesson with a new topic which is life cycle costing. Here starts the lesson. Introduction of life cycle costing. What is life cycle costing? Life cycle costing is one of the type of cost planning technique, or we call it LCC. By the definition, LCC is a technique that tracks and accumulates the actual costs and revenues attributable to project, product, or service from invention to abandonment. Or we can say, life cycle cost is a process of compiling all costs incurred over its lifespan. Total costs include acquisition, maintenance, and until it is disposed. Moving on to the objective of life cycle cost. The first one is help management to efficiently allocate resources throughout the life cycle. This is important to ensure that our organization can achieve its goal. For the second one is determine which areas that cost reduction efforts are likely to be more effective. Last one is they can estimate the cost that we incur based on various designs and support opinion. Next, differences for traditional cost accounting versus life cycle costing. Traditional costs use system profitability on calendar basis and not all costs included in the product. Meanwhile, life cycle costs use it over several calendar periods and all costs related to the product will be included. In terms of the product life, traditional costing will split into several annual periods and strategies prepared for an annual period only. Thus, early action cannot be taken as life of the product is unknown. As compared to life cycle cost, the product life is split into several phases according to the strategies, so early action can be planned in advance. For the overall, we can say life cycle cost is more conclusive rather than traditional since the plan made for a long-term period. Next, we move on to the characteristic. There is 4 characteristics of life cycle cost, which are product life cycle costing involves tracing of costs and revenues of a product over several calendar periods throughout its life cycle. And the second one, each phase of the product life cycle poses different threats and opportunities that may require different strategy actions. And the third one, product life cycle will include R&D costs that give total magnitude of these costs for each individual product and compared with the product revenue. And the last one, product life cycle may be extended by finding new users or users by increasing the consumption of the present users. Why we need life cycle cost? So, this is the list of the advantages of life cycle cost. Life cycle cost can improve decision making made by management. Life cycle cost can promote long-term benefit as compared to short-term. Life cycle costs also enable companies to get a complete picture about the total product life. Lastly, life cycle costs give more accurate and realistic assessment on revenue and cost within the product life cycle. But there are still several limitations toward life cycle costs. So this is the list of disadvantages of life cycle costs. For the first one is time consuming. We can say it is time consuming since the life cycle costing timeline is from the start to the end of the product life, so it takes a longer time rather than another technique. Second, it is high cost since the longer the project lifetime, the more cost will be incurred. And for the third and fourth, due to changes in technology and customer needs, the technology used will be outdated and we cannot predict market demand as well as the competitors' impact.
Alright guys, let's move on to the next subtopic in the life cycle costing, which is life cycle budget. The definition for the life cycle budget is a budget that compares planned costs with predicted revenue over each year of the product's entire life. While the importance of the life cycle budget, it enables a comprehensive assessment of the profitability of a product over its entire life, which can help the managers to decide which products to produce. When seeking to make a profit on a product, it is essential that the total revenue arising from the product exceeds total costs, whether these costs are incurred before, during, or after the product is produced. This is the concept of life cycle costing, and it is important to realize that target costs can be driven down by attacking any of the costs that relate to any part of a product's life. The cost phases of product can be identified into 4 phases. The first one is the design phase. The costs involved are research, development, design, and tooling. During manufacturing phase, usually costs incurred such as material, labor, machine setup, and training. Meanwhile, the distribution, advertising, and warranty claims costs usually occur during operation phase. And the last phases of cost is the end of product's life, which involve environmental cleanup, disposal, and decommissioning. There are 4 principal lessons to be learned from life cycle costing. The first one is all costs from the beginning process of the product until the end of the product's life cycle should be considered when working out the cost for a unit of product and its profitability. The second principle is by giving the attention to all costs will help to reduce the cost per unit and will help an organization achieve its target cost. The third one, in life cycle costing, many costs will be linked, such as more attention to training of staffs can reduce the maintenance costs. If companies give more attention on the design or quality of the raw materials, it can reduce the warranty costs as they will not receive lots of defect products from the customers. The first one, the costs are committed and incurred at very different times. A committed cost is a cost that will be incurred in the future because of the decisions that have already been made. Costs are incurred only when a resource is used. Okay class, let's observe this pattern of cost committed and cost incurred. In this diagram, there is two different costs, which are cost committed and cost incurred. As I said earlier in the previous slide, the cost committed is a cost will be incurred in future because of the decision already been made, while cost incurred is when a resource is used. During the design phase, usually the costs incurred are research, development, designing, and tooling, but approximately 80% of the cost committed is during the design phase. This is because the design will largely dictate material, labor, and machine costs. During this phase, companies will try their best to negotiate with the suppliers over the cost of components to get cheaper price with best quality. It is an achievement for the company when, for example, they can reduce the usage of raw materials from 10 kg to 8 kg of flour for production. This will give big impact to the cost of product per unit. Design phase is the most important phase of the product life cycle as it locks the company in to most future costs, and it can give the companies greatest opportunities to reduce those costs. Choices made at the design stage should account for all stages of the product's life, including end-of-life costs, which could involve handling or storing hazardous material and polluting activities.
Next, we go to the phases of life cycle costing. Are you guys know what is the phases of life cycle costing? Life cycle costing is divided into 5 phases, which are development, introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. The phases may seem to the human cycle from being a baby, kids, teenager, adult, and last being a senior citizen. Now you guys know the life cycle phases. Let me explain briefly about this in the next slide. For the first phase is development stage. The company needs to do a research and development and testing of the product. It is to ensure that the product is safe to use by the customer. The company also needs to incur in staff training and capital investment to invest in the new machinery for making this product. In this stage, there is no revenue is generated as the company has making loss. At this point, it is the loss-making product. During this phase, it may take up between 70% to 90% of costs incurred. Therefore, the company should minimize the cost. Since the risk is high, outside funding sources are limited. The existing companies need to fund the development cost by the profit generated for the previous product, while for the startup companies, they need to fund using their own resources. For the second phase, the introduction stage, where the product is introduced to the market for the first time. Once the product has launched, the company needs to have the additional cost as it will be an unknown product to the market. Therefore, High marketing effort at this stage is necessary to reach out to the potential customer. The company also need to patent their product to ensure that the product will not copied by the others. In this stage, the costs incurred are advertising or marketing and staff training. They also need to incur the cost of production and distribution as they will supply to the market. The company may use the strategies for introductory stage, which are penetration, pricing strategies, and skimming pricing strategies. Penetration pricing strategies involve using a low initial price to encourage many customers to try a product and may hope to sell a high volume in order to generate substantial revenues, such as fragrances of shampoo. While the skimming pricing strategy is setting a high initial price for a product to more quickly recoup the investment related to its development and marketing, such as electronic products. The third phase is growth. At this point, the revenue has been generated since the product has been accepted by the customers, and the company is striving to increase the market share. The product can bring the company to have more profit in the future as the sales have increased. We can see the economy of scale. For example, the cost per unit may decrease due to the more the product being produced, the lower the company can get the product price. The costs incurred in this phase are inventory holding, as the company need to store the inventories since they need to produce extra stocks, and the production and distribution, where the product will continue produced from the introduction phase. For example, during the COVID-19, the glove and face mask is at the growth stage, as it can help to prevent the virus away. The fourth phase is maturity. At this point, the publicity has been intensified. The potential customer know the product, but the sales will level off due to the demand from the customer becomes low as the competitor is increased. Therefore, the company need to adapt or improve the product. The company need to improve the product by change a little bit or different version of the product to maintain the market share. They also may have choice in terms of marketing. If they increase, they may boost back their sales to the growth stage or maintain the maturity stage. If they reduce, they will bring the product to the decline stage. For example, Samsung has added features and lowered the price on its mobile phone as it engaging in a price war with Apple. Last but not least, the decline phase. Have you heard of the iPod Nano? The product may relate to the decline of the revenue due to market saturation, high competition, and changing customer needs. Therefore, the company has several options. Either the company can discontinue the product, or they sell the manufacturing rights to another business that can better compete or maintain the product by adding new features or finding new users for the product, or they can tap into new markets through exporting. In this stage, we can see that the company often announce the new and improved packaging that can attract the market to boost back the sales. For the iPod Nano, in 2015, Apple has announced the new version of iPod Nano. In mid-2017, due to inability to connect with the internet, therefore, Apple has discontinued iPod Nano. Now, we take a look from the production perspective. For product planning and design stage, we'll incur research and development costs and design costs of the product. Next, the manufacturing and sales stage. This is the weaknesses, both growth and maturity in sales. All the manufacturing, marketing, and selling and distribution costs are incurred at the stage. Last, the service and abandonment stage. It is after sales service where the sales volume and demand will decrease.
Okay, now let's move on to the example of case.
Timerco specializes in the making of digital watch. The company planning to develop new watch with features such as calculator and a daily diary. Development of the new watch is to begin shortly, and Timerco is in the process of determining the price of the product. It expects the new product to have following costs. Okay, as you can see, the column below is the figure for the expected cost for the new product from year 1 to year 4. You can see there are units to be manufactured and sold, research and development costs, design costs, production cost per unit, marketing costs, and disposal costs incurred for 4 years. Also, you can see at the end of the column, each item has been calculated total for 4 years. Just basically add up all from year 1 to year 4. Okay, next. This is a situation where the marketing director believes that customers will be prepared to pay 500 ringgit for a digital watch. But the financial director believes this will not cover all of the costs throughout the life cycle. So now, how to calculate using the life cycle cost? First, calculate the total production cost by simply multiply the total production cost per unit with total units to be manufactured and sold. In this case, 750 ringgit multiplied with 24,000 units, so you will get the amount 80 million. Second, calculate the total life cycle cost by add total research and development cost, total design cost, total production costs that have been calculated in step 1, total marketing cost, and disposal cost. So you will get amount of 80,930,000 for total life cycle cost. The last step, calculate the cost per unit based on the formula given. Total life cycle cost divided by total production units. Therefore, in this case, you will get 788 ringgit 75 cents for 1 unit digital watch. From the result calculating by using life cycle cost, we can say that the total life cycle cost per unit, which is 788 ringgit 75 cents, is higher than the price proposed by the marketing director. Therefore, Timerco will either have to charge a higher price or look at ways to reduce costs. But if we see to real life situation, it may be difficult to increase the price if customers are price sensitive and are not prepared to pay more. However, costs could be reduced by another way, which is reanalyzing each part of the cost throughout the life cycle and actively seeking cost savings. So, there are recommendations here that maybe Timer & Co can use in order to reduce the cost. Using other different materials, or hire cheaper staff, or acquiring more efficient technology. And now, let's see life cycle perspective. Okay, what is cycle perspective? Cycle perspective is a systematic approach to environmental management that can provide top management with information to build success over the long term and create options for contributing to sustainable development. The question is how? It is through controlling or influencing the way the organization's products and services are designed, manufactured, distributed, consumed, and disposed. To simplify, basically the life cycle perspective is a consideration of the environmental aspects of an organization's activities, products, and services that it can control or influence. Okay, next. Why life cycle perspective it is important to the organization? This is because some of the organization's significant environmental impacts can occur during the transport, delivery, use, end-of-life treatment,
or final disposal of its product or service. Therefore, through life cycle perspective, it can prevent environmental impacts from being unintentionally shifted elsewhere within the life cycle. Then, an organization can potentially prevent or mitigate adverse environmental impacts during the life cycle stage. Last but not least, the organization also can consider the extent of control or influence that it can exert over activities, products, and services. Okay, application of life cycle perspective. When applying a life cycle perspective to its product and services, the organization should consider the following aspects. There are several aspects here. The first one is the stage in the life cycle of the product or services, which means that whether the product or service it, it is in development stage or in production stage or maturity stage or any other stage. The second one is the degree of control it has over the life cycle stage. For example, here, a product designer may be responsible for raw material selection, whereas the user may only be responsible for use and disposal of the product. For the third aspect is the degree of influence it has over the life cycle. For example, the designer may only influence the manufacturer's production methods, whereas the manufacturer may also influence the design and the way the product is used or its method of disposal. The fourth aspect is the life of the product, which means how long the product can sustain. The fifth aspect is the organization's influence on the supply chain. Meanwhile, for sixth aspect is the length of the supply chain, which means how much the product been supplied to others. And last but not least, the technological complexity of the product. Here, the organization can consider those stages in the life cycle over which it has the greatest control or influence, as this may offer the greatest opportunity to maximize profit, reduce resource use, and minimize pollution or waste. We move on to the life cycle cost in Malaysia. For your information, life cycle costs have been introduced in Malaysian construction industry and practiced by Public Works Department (PWD). The department was urged to guide practitioners to implement life cycle costs in aspect of infrastructure buildings, especially in new construction projects in Malaysia. In 2012, PWD itself published a guideline to introduce the methods and cost elements associated in the application of life cycle cost, namely Garis Panduan Kos Kitaran Hayat. For example here, life cycle cost has been used in development for water treatment plant in Malaysia water industry. The organization being used this method in order to solve the issue of deterioration and the high cost in water assets with the purpose to attain the lower operating cost. Other than that, Jabatan Kerja Raya (JKR), for example, they consider either want to use Portland cement concrete pavement or hot mix asphalt in road construction. Therefore, the organization implement life cycle costs in order to make wise decisions to choose between both of the material to finish the project with aspect of long-term round planning and low cost.
Wow, that's an interesting topic. And Sharifah, do you understand the topic that we discussed?
Yes, I can conclude that life cycle costing emphasis on long-term planning for maximize future profit, and it is also provide better overall cost in long run, even though the process is complex.
Yes, I agree. I think life cycle cost can be recommended to every company as it is very useful and could help companies management in making decisions.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah,
I
that's right.
think that's all for today's discussion. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.
See you. Bye.